Hello, everybody. Welcome to Breaking the Silence, a podcast by Quest Pro Women Foundation. This is a Pan-African podcast dedicated to illuminating the pressing issue of sexual gender-based violence and amplifying the voices of sexual and gender-diverse individuals. My name is Samantha, your host, and together we'll explore the complex landscape of sexual gender-based violence across Africa, delve into the intersectionality of these experiences, and foster meaningful dialogue towards empowerment and change. Join us as we break the silence and champion the rights and dignity of all. Let's get started. The rampant anti-rights and anti-gender movement across the African continent has necessitated conversations geared at understanding the extremities in which it goes, but also to come up with solutions that are made by sexual and gender diverse persons themselves, so we can see how we first of all work together as a continent, but also appreciate the individual country issues and see how it all feeds into the whole plan. So Quest Women Pro is having these conversations with the sexual and gender diverse community across the continent. And so today we're going to have a conversation around how important is inclusion, and what has really made this conversation important is Uganda is having a census, the national census, and when we're looking at the forms that were sent, they are binary forms as far as sex and gender goes. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that the whole of Uganda is fits into the binary system? And so we're having that conversation, which people are included, what does that mean? And also to see what happens when people of certain sex of the population are excluded from certain things. And also, while we are having this conversation, we appreciate that there's a country in East Africa that has actually in 2022, had a law passed that makes it illegal to have surgeries to correct gender at birth. And so, just to find out, has that been working, the policy versus the attitude on the ground, and how is it done, and how did they even arrive at such a policy, and how can Uganda also find ourselves having such policies, and maybe then we can figure out how to implement or how to work towards attitude of people, at least when we have the paper in place. And so my name is Samantha and I'll be hosting, and so let everybody else introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Nahiranda. I'm happy to be here. What I do in my free time is fashion styling, but I also enjoy shoemaking.
Hi everyone, glad to be here, Samantha. Thanks for having us. My name is Justin and I contribute to life as a communicator and an entertainer. My happy place is entertaining. That's all I ever want to do in life. So.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kelvin Wangari. I work for Gender and Diverse Persons in Kenya, in the Coast region. I'm a gender non-conforming person. I suit under any particular gender that you feel is good with you, for you to use on me. I'm glad to be in this podcast, probably learning and unlearning issues on intersex. At the same time, looking at intersectionality in terms of population, census, socioeconomic impacts of probably the census conducted. Was it a win for Kenya? Was it a loss? What are the wins? What are the losses? And so on and so forth. I'm glad to be here, looking to have a fruitful conversation, and may the conversation begin.
The force be with you.
And also with you.
Kevin, what are your pronouns? It's very interesting how you said you're
We didn't give pronouns either.
Okay. I think everybody else can.
I'm a gender non-conforming person. I don't conform to any particular gender. So you can use she, you can use her, you can use them, you can use he, they.
So everything all at once.
So everything.
Okay.
I recently found somebody.
Your pronouns are gorgeous.
Cat.
No, so in Uganda, how would mean?
Ka is something really small, like a tiny, tiny element. And I think now that I think about it, small, tiny element, that makes so much sense. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we all are? Enlightening moment.
Let's get into the conversation. Dr. Nahiranda, I'd like you to explain to us what intersectionality means. What does that mean?
Okay. So intersectionality was recently renamed by scientists as differences of sex development. So they went ahead to define that as so when you read scientific literature, they'll say it's formally called intersex conditions, and these are normally seen in infants who are born with ambiguous or genitalia that does not fall into the normal quote unquote binary. And so what we call that we call that the phenotype. What we see in the physical is called a phenotype. Yeah. And then we have a genotype, which is what your genes are. So clinicians define that as people who have ambiguous genitalia at birth, and it can be due to it's due to differences in chromosomes, but it also is different. It's a spectrum. Not everyone will have ambiguous genitalia at birth, but that does not make them intersex. So the spectrum is you can have differences in chromosomes. Yeah. So what happens is we are born with a genotype. Yeah, those are our genes. So the genes that determine sex in quotes are called sex chromosomes. So they're X and Y. So in the binary we have X and Y being the male, and then we have XX being females. But so those are 46 chromosomes. So we say you have 46 chromosomes XY, those are men, 46 chromosomes XX, those are women. But you can also have people who have their genotype looks normal like that, but then they're still intersex. Yeah. And so that's why there are classifications under intersex like that. That's because that someone can still have a normal karyotype, but the coding of the genes they are in that further influence the developing of the gonads, which are the ovary and the testis. That the genes on the chromosomes, they are different. Like the chromosomes have genes themselves that further on determine what gonads are going to develop, and then the gonads go on to determine what genitalia is going to, so it's a sequence. We have genes, gonads, genitalia, and sex characteristics. Yeah. So it's a spectrum. So you could have a normal looking genotype. You could be 46XX. Yeah. When we do your karyotype, your genes come out 46XX. But during the development, maybe there was a mishap in the expression of the genes, so the proteins that were produced were defective, and so you have defects in the development of the gonads. Now, maybe you missed that step. Yeah, gonads go on to develop. Yeah, you get a testis. Your XY, you go on to get a testis. Yeah, but then the hormones produced by that testis may be defective. It can even go on to say now, okay, you're producing normal hormones, but the hormones are not working normally. So all those are stages at which intersex people, like all those are sub-classifications under which intersex people form. And so it's very easy for us to think only people with ambiguous genitalia fall under intersex, or only people who must have both testes and ovaries fall under what? Under intersex people. So that's just like a brief. So people who have both testes and ovaries, those are the gonads, as I explained before. Those are called ovotesticular DSDs. DSDs is differences in sex development. So like those people, their karyotype has made them, okay, whatever happened has, along any of the lines that I was explaining, has seen to it that they have both ovaries and testes at the same time. So there's a group for those particular ones called ovotesticular. Okay. Yeah. But also other conditions that we normally know of, like Turner syndrome, those have the normal number of chromosomes in everyone is 46. People in Turner's lack one. They lack a sex chromosome. They have one X, so they are 45X. Those also fall under classification of DSDs. Also, people with Klinefelters, they have an extra chromosome. Those are 47XXY, also fall under intersex people. Yeah, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I just want the people to hear. Every time he said normal, there were quotes. So there's like no normal way to be things. They couldn't see you though.
Yeah.
So it's not enough. You know, before we used to, it was obvious. Just pull down some. Okay, not just pull down, but ideally you just be able to pull down someone's pants and conclude that this person is an intersex person. And that gives it a lot of like, you know, diversity and the spectrum is wide. I just want to ask Kirsten, if you, from what you hear, what do you think are the problems that are going to be caused by the lack of this, the lack of acknowledging that Uganda actually
what
has
shocks me
intersex
even
people?
from listening to Dr. Malik is the idea that there is a medical explanation to this. It exists. What bothers me is the moral connotation around it from our best and brightest one of the brightest moral campus on the planet.
I have a story about that, but go on.
Okay, please, I would love to hear it. But we already, the people whose moral compass is at its best and brightest will tell you that the reason a census happens is planning, all of these things. There's a whole section of people that you do not acknowledge that need to be planned for. There's already a gross line of abuse in this group of people. And then the easiest answer is, okay, fine, let's exclude them, and then the moral dilemma in that is their moral compass is determined by them. It's not even based off of the acknowledgement that there are intersex people living among us.
But I think it's like the most African thing to do. If you don't talk about something for so long, it will just eventually magically disappear.
Yeah.
It just go away.
Yeah.
Kelvin, we just want to hear how it's, again, we've been very excited about your law, about the Intersex Protection, the Children's Protection Act that protects intersex children from surgery at birth. Tell us about how you arrived at that. Tell us about if there've been any, if what the situation was like before, what's it like after, and how has that really helped intersex organizing in Kenya?
I think I'll start by saying that in our census 2019, we actually conducted intersex persons were included in the census. First, that was 2019, even before the intersex bill 2022-2023. So the government first, through CSOs, civil society organizations, through NGOs, through all spaces, called for government to take action, called for government to recognize that, yes, intersex person exists, and Dr. has just given us a medical explanation of intersex persons exist. The government has always is reluctant to such issues. So in census 2019, we had male, female, and others. They were not even categorical of saying whether it is intersex or not, but we knew it was they were recognizing intersex persons. So in our census, we moved now from the two binaries that we know, and then we included the intersex person. That was a win for us as CSOs. It was also a win for programming on intersex person. One, because we can now, previously in programming, we used our entry point was HIV and AIDS. But in Kenya currently, we can use intersex, we can use gender diversity, we can use all those diversities as entry points. So it was a win. It was a win for us. Also, it also gave us hope. Assuming as you have said, Uganda is having its census on. I don't know whether it is unfortunate or it's fortunate. On Friday is a public holiday here. So it would interest me to see how those census will go by. But I'm just thinking out loud. Imagine asking somebody, are you male or female? Yet, as Dr. has said, their genitalia is ambiguous. So just a random question. What will they say in that particular census? Where will they be categorized in that particular census? I hope you people are getting my thoughts on that. Another issue is the act came in. It was Intersex Act 2022, it recognized that after census, then the government and partner stakeholders recognized that we need to create a policy that intersectionally relates to intersex persons. Because previously in our cells we had only male and female cells. In the medical field, it was only documents were only male and female. But with the Intersex Act, we are recognizing that there is an extra need in all sectors. May it be in health, may it be in the national policing, may it be in counties, may it be in population, everywhere. We are recognizing that there is need for that gender that is intersex person, of which that has come by so far. We have been able to have the intersex bill. Also, there is another one that is on draft. The 2023, there is another intersex bill that we are having on draft 2023. The one the host is talking about it was for 2022, where children now, you as a parent, you cannot give or ask the doctor to align your child to the particular sex you want your child to be. Maybe you're expecting a girl, but the genitalia is a big one. So you tell the doctor to have a surgery for the baby to be a girl. No. So for that is reasonable in Kenya right now. If the medical person who is doing that and the parent, they are reasonable in Kenya under law. That was also a win-win for parents, also for intersex children who do not know where to classify themselves. In Kenya, we have seen progress because we are now able to talk about intersex issues openly. We are now able to recognize that intersex persons are here. We are now able to recognize the need. And also, as a CSO, we are able to program according to those needs. I think those are the few remarks I would make on this particular issue.
It's so weird. How can we be so close yet so different?
But I do have a question, though.
Sorry?
Yeah. So there's an apparent looming 6-month jail sentence for dodging the census. What does an intersex person do?
You draw a box. I don't know. I was thinking about it. Maybe you draw a box and then you.
I don't know, because and this is the thing. This is the thing when you do things without really thinking them through. Like, I think that's the reason even for my question. So now, anyone who dodges the census, you're going to get arrested for 6 months. An intersex person who is well aware that I am not a part of the people being counted. What are they going to do?
I think also maybe the other thing, we could print our own forms. The kid comes in. No, don't worry.
I got this.
Let's fill this one.
Let's fill this one.
Dr. Nahara, I did ask you, is there anything wrong with these surgeries? And is there anything wrong with, because it would be an easier life when going through life when you're
in a binary.
Okay, yeah, sex-wise, not gender.
Maybe, can I comment on that?
What did you want to say, Calvin? You do your thing.
I want to comment on whether is there anything wrong with early surgery.
Yeah, okay, yes, please continue.
Yes, everything is wrong with early surgeries. We've experienced this in Kenya, where assuming somebody carried pregnancy for 9 months, they have given birth, and then the genitalia is male and is both male and female. So you as a parent, you are expecting, or your expectations were a baby girl. So you go ahead and do surgery and leave the female genitalia. But as the baby grows, as the baby reaches adolescence, the baby starts growing beard. The baby starts, instead of having, when you reach adolescence, you say the chest broadens. In female, there's hips broadening, but this particular child doesn't do that. They literally grow opposite of, after adolescence, that is maybe the age of 13 and so forth. They are literally opposite the genitalia that their parents thought they were. So you see, you've now created another impact to that child. or maybe you're expecting a baby boy, or maybe a baby boy, but you had a person who has you got a person who has two genitalia, so you decide to do surgery and remain with the baby boy. But as the baby boy grows and reaches adolescence, they start having what we call the periods, and then they start having breasts. So where will you classify the child? For parents, parents look at genitalia, but daktari probably can expound further. There's more into more than just genitalia. When children reach adolescence, these are the issues that parents have grappled with. We have had several cases such as that here in the country. So I feel that letting the child reach adolescent stage, and maybe the child, maybe after, I don't know, in Kenya, 18 years is our adult age. That is where you can consent to anything. Maybe by then you'll have understood your
Yeah,
body
use the
well.
knife
But
then.
if you're doing surgery to a 6 month child,
It takes my
a
drink and
1 year
delicious.
child, maybe even that can expound that probably even the doctors themselves wouldn't be able to tell whether the child will grow with your assigned gender, or the child will at some point uh, probably overlook that gender and maybe get to the opposite of what you're expecting.
Thank you, Kelvin, for that. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Nahiranda. Kelvin kind of showed up like a layman picture for us, and I just love to know, medically, is there anything? Also, what do you people use to decide and say, okay, let's do this for this person? When I was growing up, I used to hear it was easier to make a boy. I don't know. That's what I had. Anyway, yeah. So what does medically, before of course we want you to stop, but what medically, what do people use to come up with these decisions? Is it like Kelvin is saying, is it to the discretion of the parent? Or what do you use? And then also, what is the disadvantage, not only just in the beginning, but also like later on in life, what happens to these people? And I would love it if you gave it to the breakdowns you gave us of those the people that have ambiguous gender, then even those people who's the chromosome issue, like the different breakdown of what that would do to each individual.
Yeah. I think the biggest struggle is for those that have ovotesticular DSDs, especially those that go ahead to have a phenotype of ambiguous genitalia. So, and those are the ones that normally get decided for to have corrective surgeries, and most times the decision is made based off, we don't do karyotype normally. Actually, they base off phenotype mostly. So they use the most prominent organ, and then they use the phenotype that the parent has decided. So if the child comes in, so most times at birth, you see in utero, the genitalia is the same. It develops from the same thing. So sometimes when kids are born, it may look a bit funny. It may not, and we choose to okay, we let it pass. Or maybe the midwife who examined that child at birth didn't put any thought to it. Yeah, baby goes home. A midwife says, okay, baby girl. Or midwife says, okay, baby boy. Maybe the thing was say a bit longer than the lips. So okay, they go home, they have their baby boy. No karyotype is done, no images are done, no one knows anything about any other things happening. And so they buy this kid boy clothes. And so at a certain point, the mother notices this genitalia are not really giving boy. They come to Mulago. These are the cases I've seen. They come to Mulago. It's a person that bought them boy clothes at home. The surgeon is like, let's make them a boy.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing, but sometimes
You know what possibly mushes me up? You know what possibly mushes me up in that scenario is I bet real money the surgeon is as confused as the parents in that moment. Like,
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Breaking the Silence. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to take action and advocate for the rights and safety of sexual and gender diverse individuals across Africa. Remember, change begins with awareness, empathy, and collective effort. Be sure to subscribe and tune in for our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the many facets of SGBV and work together towards a future free from violence and discrimination. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep breaking the silence.